Okay, so some of you might know I've been out on the banks probably the last, I don't know, 6, 7 weeks, just trying to get into a few pike. We've also had a couple of trips out for zander, but they are proving to be completely elusive. So what we thought we'd do this week is just take you through some of the things that I use to make my traces. Now, I tend to make them myself. I don't usually buy them. I think I said this time and time again, not sponsored. It's just about these are the things I have in my tackle box that I use regularly. So making traces is pretty easy. Make sure you test them before you use them. But essentially, most of the things out here you probably have knocking around in your tackle box anyway. So a couple of pairs of pliers, some good wire cutters, your choice of coated or non-coated pike wire. I use Drennan, I use Esox as well. So yeah, it doesn't really matter to me what the brand is. Obviously some trebles. I like to use circle hooks as well, and then I just have some shrink tubing here, a lighter, and the tool just helping to pull some of those knots through. Cool. What I'll do is I will head on now to take you through to the next stage. Okay, so next stage. Once you've got your chosen pike wire, whatever that is, and in this instance it's £28. You're going to want to be stripping some of this off. So you want to be essentially stripping it off the reel as long as you might want your trace. So, it's a good couple of foot there. So I'm going to actually take it further on than that. So I've got plenty of pike wire to be playing with. And then I'm going to snip this off just with a pair of normal wire cutters is fine. They need to be sharp though. That way you don't get fraying on the end of this. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to tie on the stinger. So I like to fish with circle hooks, which are these, and then I tie a stinger on after these. I just think it just adds me a little extra. It's one less load of trebles, I suppose, in the pike's mouth, and it makes it easier for unhooking for me. And I tie these on knotless knot style. Really simple. You basically take the end of your pike wire, and you want to be passing that through the eye of the treble, like so. Trap that pike wire down with this hand. Make sure to keep your fingers well away from the points of that treble. If you do pull on this, the last thing you want to do is be pulling that into your finger. We're then going to wrap this round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're then going to take this end, pop back through here, and then what we want to do is then take hold of that, very gently just pull that out. So we're not adding any pressure onto it there. It's just to pull that through and make sure that nice and tight knot there. I don't know whether you can see that. I was focusing in particularly well, but next you want to do, and I like to do this just because it gives me a little bit of extra confidence, is just take a small sleeve of shrink tubing. Now shrink tubing you can buy pretty cheap. Can be any colour, doesn't really matter. It's the same stuff that I use for my carp fishing. Really, you can make it any colour you want. I know that some of the brands have nice red and blacks. Like I said, doesn't really matter. What we do want to do is just make sure that that shrink tubing's covering that knot. So hopefully you can see that's covered nicely. It's not going to go anywhere. We then just take a lighter. You don't put the flame onto the actual shrink tubing, you just hold it underneath, and it will then just shrink that up nice and tight. It should end up looking something like that. So that's on there really tight now, which is just what we want. Next thing is to take on our circle hook in my case. And what we want to do is take this pike wire and go through the back of the hook. And we want to pull that down to roughly where we want to be locking it in. Now, I like to have my trebles just at the end of my fingers, and then I like to have my circle hook at the end. That's my general gauge of the sort of length of my traces. We then want to trap this wire in here nice and tight. We're going to do exactly the same thing again. So we're going to take this pike wire here, we're going to wrap around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to go back through the back of the eye of that hook. So you can see that back through there, and then just pull that pike wire down. So again, we're not looking to tension this up right now, it's just making sure that knot stays nice and tight. Okay, and again, just going to take a piece of shrink tubing, and then we're going to pull all of this down, pop the shank tubing over the top again, a bit tighter on this one. Okay, then back in with the lighter, and then what we're going to do is just shrink that down. And again, leaves it nice and light, and it doesn't stand out too much. It's all in there nice and tight. Last thing to do is what I like to do with this end is make a loop. Very, very simple. Take the loop, and you want to basically tie a knot, like so. So made a smaller loop here. Twist that, and this is where your handy little tool here comes in, because what we're going to do is try and just hook onto that wire if we can. Just drag it back through there. Okay. Pop in with a pair of pliers, just hold this end. Now again, we're not going to tension this right up, we're just going to pull this so the knot becomes tight. Can use a hook puller, but I haven't got one to hand at the moment. I'm going to make sure that knot sits nice and tight in here. Lovely. Last thing to do then is to find a swivel. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this loop, go through the eye of that swivel, over the top, and then push the swivel back in through that loop again. And then just slightly pull that down. And that is it. So, got the stinger treble at that end, got a circle hook there, got a swivel on this end. At this point is where we then come in with the pliers. You just hold on to the shank of that stinger hook there, grab the other end with our other pair of pliers, and then we're going to give it a good pull. Make sure everything is pulled nice and tight. Nothing's going to give. You've got complete confidence in the rig then when you're out fishing. And at this point we can just tidy things up. I don't tend to cut this tag end too short on here. I like to leave it long. You find it just sits nicely anyway. But equally, if we do get any slippage at all here, it just gives us a little bit of comfort room. You could, I suppose, put another bit of shrink tubing over here if you wanted to be really confident. And you'll see that that's all nice and neat. And so is the stinger at the end. Simple as that. So this would go through the root of the tail, or potentially through the lip or the head of the fish. And then this just blobs onto the end. I might just trim that one down just a little bit, just to neaten that up. Other than that, quick, simple, easy trace. So today you are catching up with me on the banks of the upper Yare. So we're just in sort of south Norwich really, around the Cringleford Eton area. It's free parking, free fishing. There's a few nice spots there as well. So we're currently after pike today. Got two rods out. I've got one on a sort of dead roach, a little bit of injected oil on it, just a standard float rig setup. And the other one's actually on a kebab rig, so I've never used one before. Took my fancy in the tackle shop when I was down at Tackle Boys in Knaresborough the other day. Thought I'd pick a couple of packets up and give them a whirl. Much like most of you, I'm sure, I've always got leftover bait at the end of a session, so it's a nice way, I suppose, to cut them up, put them on the old kebab rig and use them fully. So yeah, currently been out about half an hour. It's now got on for about 11:30, bit of a late start as it's Sunday, and yeah, I'll update you if I get one. I'll take you through the rigs I'm using. Hopefully you've seen the earlier part of this video where I've been setting up the traces, but as I said, I'll take you through that shortly, how we set up the dead baits. For then, See you in a bit. Okay, so mounting your dead bait. Now you've hopefully made up your traces in advance. I've already said that I like to use a circle hook as well as a treble. I also like to tie on a quick sort of snap link to my line. It just means that it makes it easier for putting your traces on and also taking your traces off once you've got a fish. So essentially just nick your trace on. Circle hook goes through the root of the tail, gives you a nice hard firm grip, and essentially the stinger treble in the side. Barbed hook first, leaving your barbless out. Easy as that. Well, it's been a little bit quiet. Not much happening in the swim, should we say. I think probably the best thing for us to do at the minute is go and try and find a bit of deeper water. So the area that I'm fishing here, although I've caught before, is probably only about 4.5 foot deep. So I do know another swim. It's a bit further downstream. It sits on a really nice bend and sits up to about 13 foot of water in there. So yeah, best plan, try and find some deeper water, see if the fish are holed up in there. If not, we're keeping mobile today, so we'll just keep hopping along, giving you a swim about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll be in well. Maybe pick one up in a swim further downstream. But I'll see you in a bit. So not the end of the session I was hoping for, bit of a blank. That said, sun's sort of come out now, it's quite bright. I've got to get back unfortunately as well, so only a short session today, but we'll be back out on the bank shortly, hopefully with 1 or 2 pike, but we'll see. Thanks for watching.